Hello, everybody, and welcome to the pre-show. I'm here with Stacey and Sil. How are you guys doing today?
I'm good.
Yeah, pretty good. Other than the weather, but yeah.
Stacey, I saw you bobbing your head. Do you like this kind of music? Do you like that music?
I did like it. I was like, it sounds really good with headphones on. Usually.
Yeah, I like it too.
Really feeling the vibe. Really feeling the vibe. Okay,
Thanks
so
for calling me out.
it's okay. I can see you guys. I can see everybody, even though you're not in the show. So tonight's theme: anti-gravity, time travel, and alien tech. So, what are you guys' thoughts on those subjects, and anything bogging you down that you want to answer tonight?
I think it's going to be really educational. I'm looking forward to learning new stuff.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Because I really don't know much about anti-gravity, or if even that's how you say it.
Anti, maybe?
Anti or anti?
No?
Same. Potato.
Yeah.
First question tonight. How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, I agree. We're going to learn a lot from this guest. I'm really, really excited about it. I'm wanting to ask them questions like how they perceive time. Is it linear? Like, is it maybe how they would describe time? What are like some of their opinions around time travel existing now? And maybe its connection to the Mandela effect. You could talk about that a little bit, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
I see him nodding his head, so it looks like he could answer that question for us. Good. And he's smiling,
Awesome.
so he's paying attention. Good.
Awesome.
Anything from you, Sil? Anything?
No, I think I made a fool of myself already.
No,
So.
you're doing good. Hello, Serena. You are a member. You're in the house tonight. Hello.
Hi, Serena.
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in. All right. Well, I guess that's it. So, everyone, thanks. We're getting ready to start the show. So, sit back, relax, and we'll see you in a couple minutes. Tonight we will go deep into the realm of the unknown and question everything as we search for the truth.
We will explore the possibility of countless phenomena within the ultraspectrum, and together we will learn that it is all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association, and it is a live stream broadcast. If you have a question, send me a super chat or become a YouTube member. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. Take a seat, relax, get ready, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, January 27th, 2022, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. I'm a lion. I am a licensed private investigator. Pardon me. That's funny. And the director of investigations for the Experiencers Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. This is live. Obviously, you can't no take backs. To super chat, click the $sign next to your name in the comment box, and if you are in the observation deck, we are inside the Experiencer Hall. Go in, put your comment and questions in that chat box. So tonight's theme is anti-gravity, time travel, and alien tech. And our guest for season 4, episode 4 is Mark Fiorentino. I hope I said that right. He's not. Yeah, awesome. Got it. Nailed it. So author Mark Fiorentino has been obsessed with Einstein's unified field theory ever since hearing about it when he was 10. He worked for many years in the high-tech industry, including IBM. Mark Fiorentino will share his views on how the universe really works based on his study and research of Einstein's unified field theory. He will discuss how the applications of Einstein's theory can be used to travel through space for renewable energy and the use of future technology. He will also talk about the connection to conspiracy theories, including UFOs and alien technology they use, as well as other controversial topics such as near-death experience revelations that are linked to the theory of super relativity. So, Mark, put on your tinfoil hat. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. It's good to be here. Looking forward to this. It's going to be
awesome.
fun.
Awesome. So the way we start this show is we do what's called an icebreaker, which is from Tim the Demon Guy Morrison. So I'll just play his little video here. So you guys can find Tim on Facebook and Twitter at the Demon Guy Canada. So the way that works is he gives me a question, the first question of the night. I don't know what it is. I'm going to answer, open it right now, ask it, and that's how we kick off the show. So his question is, if you could create a reality TV show and it was guaranteed to air, what show would you want to put on TV? That's a good question.
That one's for me, huh?
Yeah.
That is really interesting because I have thought about that.
Okay.
That is, a little psychic connection going on there. Yeah, that if I could, and I've thought about it over and over, trying to come up with an idea for a ongoing reality show, I guess I would have made it about all the experiences I've had, because I got another book that's in the works, which talks all about the spiritual connections, the NDE research I did, connections with psychic mediums, all that kind of stuff, which is really hot today. Well, it just happens to be something that I experienced from the age of 19 all the way up to 66 now. And I suppose that could be an angle, but I would only have so many shows. Eventually, I'd run out of stuff. It wouldn't be a reality show anymore. But it's kind of hard to do that in my line of work with what I know. I have given it a lot of thought, though, because that's an avenue into getting the message out to the public. I guess my reality TV show would be doing what I'm doing right now, these podcasts.
This is reality. This is TV for some people. This is YouTube.
This is reality TV right here.
This is it right here, right now.
So this is my reality, our reality tonight, and we're on the adventure. So
Okay.
Strap
So we'll segue into that. So before we get into the nit and gritty of it all, I always like to ask the first question, and that is why are you the way that you are? Which means, how did you become this person that I just read this bio for? So how did this happen?
I'm going to try to keep it short because I could easily go 2 hours on that question.
Well,
If I
we
told
got
you
2
everything,
hours.
if I filled in all the details, I will say this: there's two paths that I walked on together simultaneously in parallel. One was the fascination and interest in science, and Albert Einstein, who was born. I was born just 20 miles from Princeton, which is where he died, and only a month before he died, about 35 days. We just passed. We just missed each other. So that love for Einstein and physics and the unified field theory got me on the path early on. And then later on, some psychic medium type things happened. I started studying UFOs, wanted to know how they worked, assumed that since they had anti-gravity, they figured out the unified field theory because that's a field in itself right there. And so a combination of things got me to where I am today. But for most of my life, I was just doing the same things that other people did. I was going to a job, I was a troubleshooter most of my life. So that helped hone my skills for writing the book, because what I did was troubleshoot the unified field theory problem, which the question I asked myself, why can't the smartest, most brilliant people in the world solve this problem? And eventually the answer was really simple, because they were using the wrong model. Okay. And after troubleshooting that and realizing that, I sought knowledge for the correct model, which comes from Einstein. So it's those two things. There was, psychical things, getting your fortune told and somebody mentioning something in your future. And then it gets confirmed again by another psychic and another and another. And I'm saying, okay, something's going on here. I guess at some point in my life, I'm going to do something, but I don't know what. So I had to live my life all the way through just doing ordinary stuff. And then when I retired, I decided to write this book because I had all these ideas. Turns out that was the thing I was supposed to do.
And so that book that's the where is that here? What's the name of that book?
Master of Reality, which inside of it is the Theory of Super Relativity, which was, of course, inspired by Einstein and 4 other physicists of his time and slightly before his time. Okay.
So what I'm hearing there is quite the coincidence, and you do look like Einstein a little bit. You don't have the hair. Was that intentional?
I grew a beard and a mustache a long time ago, and I shaved the beard, and I never shaved off the mustache. I just can't do it. It's something inside of me says, don't shave off the mustache. So I guess there's a little resemblance there.
Well,
but
I'm
there's
jealous. I can't
to
grow
that story we may get into, especially after the second book comes out.
Okay. All right. So, let's start with Cece's question, because I think we can go. I think that's a really good question to determine where we're going, and that was what is time? So, in your opinion, what is it as we know, and what is it really? And
I had the same question. That's why I dedicated a chapter to it in my book, because it's a really relevant and important thing to figure out. And after many years of thinking, it comes down to this, basically. Distance equals rate times time. Now, you may think that's a pretty simple little equation that doesn't really, has some sort of abstract meaning. But no. What's key in this physical material world, in order for time to exist, distance has to exist. In other words, there needs to be a real physical metric. And if you don't have that, and then what I mean by that, space must be a real thing. And if you go out into outer space where there's no air, and people, a lot of scientists as well, say, well, that's nothing. And nothing could be further from the truth. The important thing to realize, space, the ether, as they called it back in the day around 1905 and before, really does exist. And I worked very hard in my book to prove it beyond any shadow of a doubt. And now that I have come to realize, as Einstein did, that space is a real thing, he even says it in a speech. So I'm making a real important point here that we have to start with a real physical distance, a measurable distance that takes a certain amount of time to traverse. And it does. It takes light 8.5 minutes to get to Earth. If space were made of nothing and you tried to plug that into the equation I just said, it would take 0 time for light to get to Earth. But we never see that. Therefore, that proves there's something out there that light's interacting with as it travels from the sun to the Earth. Even Einstein says it in his speech, The Ether and General Relativity. At the very end of the speech, he's saying the same thing in a very fancy, beautiful way that I just said. Recapitulating, we may say that according to the general theory of relativity, space is endowed with physical qualities. In this sense, therefore, there exists an ether. According to general relativity, space without an ether is unthinkable, for in such space there not only would be no propagation of light, but also no possibility for the existence for standards of space and time, measuring rods and clocks, nor therefore any space-time intervals in the physical sense. So he's basically saying the exact same thing I just said. You got to have a physical distance in order to have time. Then it emerges as something we can experience in reality, because it takes, you have a finite maximum speed, the speed of light. You have a distance, a metric out there in space, some physical real distance that's made of a substance that takes time to traverse. Those are the key ingredients that makes time exist in this universe. But if you go somewhere else where time doesn't exist, which is in the spirit realm, now all of a sudden the time over there is like all happening at the same moment, which is necessary if you want to have time travel.
Okay.
So we have 2 instances here in the physical realm where God set the rules when creation happened. And so basically what I'm saying is we have time because we live in a universe that has a real physical substance, a foundational field, a fundamental field called the ether. And it takes a certain amount of time. Then you can make clocks, things are taking, it requires motion. You'll realize when you're talking about time, there's always you're watching the secondhand move. There's a motion from here to there, and there's a time interval for each click. That doesn't happen. Excuse me. That doesn't happen if space is equal to nothing. All of a sudden, what happens is you have absolute time where everything's happening at once. So if we lived in a universe where space were equal to nothing, light from the farthest galaxy would be here instantly. And it would be like a bizarre world. So you got to have these physical things to have time here in this world.
So where my head's going with that is with time and then distance. And then we measure time many different ways in many different times. No pun intended, I guess. And like even with time zones, like we measure time differently. I was talking about that this morning. It's kind of interesting. So the time it is to me right now is not the same time zone somewhere else. So on Eastern time, someone in Pacific time, it's 3 hours earlier in the day.
Well, that's because you're in a different distance. If everything were local, once again, that would only happen if there was nothing in between everything, which isn't kind of an impossibility. Then you wouldn't have a 10 o'clock here and a 9 o'clock there, because it would all be the same moment. And in a sense, there is a I believe there is an absolute time.
That's kind of where I was going to. So it's like, is this just these are just skills that we use to make sense of it while we live in different places, and how do we interpret what the true time is for, or universal time is?
That's exactly right. It's this whole experience of time is built this way so we can make sense of events in an orderly fashion. That we're going to get a series of events, and it's all going to be in an order, and it's something that our material minds can process and make sense with. If we're on the other side, studying all the NDEs that I did, they say time really doesn't exist there. It's very hard for them to describe. Time and time again, they have a real difficulty. The closest thing I get is that, time is all happening at once. And you have many instances where they can go back in time if they want, with just a single thought. They can go back in time or see the future, and they can travel anywhere instantly. Again, there's that factor of motion involved. If we had infinitely fast motion, then again, time gets messed up because it becomes absolute again. So we have a universe that was specially designed so that we, with our limited minds in the flesh, could, make sense of the world and experience time intervals that make sense to us. And there's no problem trying to figure out what's going on, when this is happening, when's that happening. It all works out because we live in a material physical universe that has a specific substance, the quasi-elastic solid known as the ether. And it takes a finite amount of time to traverse it. So then from that, as Einstein said, you get space-time intervals in the physical sense.
Okay. We have a super chat from Stacey. She asks, what does Mark think about the concept of the speed of thought? Would it be considered as having a factor in time travel as you understand it?
If you're on the other side, the speed of thought is infinitely fast. The thing that I've always wondered, and I ask myself this, where does the thought come from? Where do your thoughts come from? And the best I can come up with on that one so far is you're actually remembering something that triggers the thought. So it's a memory that triggers your thoughts throughout your life. But the speed of thought on the other side is, you think it happens. You think it, you get an answer. You have a question, you get an answer. You want to go back to see the dinosaurs? It's done like that. So over there, it's instantaneous. Over here, you're using your brain, which is an interface to this physical reality. And there's speed limits, the electrons and the whole thought process and everything takes a finite amount of time. So it's nearly infinite, but it's not. It does take time for thoughts.
So, okay. So with us in that space, so that ether, is that what the other side is? Is that ether, or that's just or is that something different? In your opinion?
It's been explained to me through, because I've kind of asked that question a little bit, and their energy is different than our energy, and that's the only explanation I've got. So it's as best as I can tell, their realm is pure thought and pure consciousness, and when we die, our soul, our consciousness will come out and reconnect to the universal whole, God, the infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call him. And it's a beautiful thing to behold, really, the whole process and the creation of this world and this realm and the other realm that's basically running in parallel alongside us as we speak. There's guardian angels and, of course, angels and spirits and so forth that all coexist and are helping us through in this time. So it's what I'm trying to do, I guess, basically, is trying to reconnect science with religion
Okay.
Because really, in reality, it's religion or the spiritual realm that created this world through the power of intention. Many NDEers have come back and were told this by God or Jesus or whoever they talk to on the other side. They want to let people know here that God is real, the other side is real, and God created all of this. So the super relativity theory is an intelligent design theory, basically. I'm going with that, and it helped me to solve certain technical problems while I was analyzing the cosmology aspects of.
So, well, let's talk about that. So that is your super relative theory is your theory, to my understanding, as enhancing to Einstein's theory of relativity. Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've really basically extended special and general relativity. Special relativity, Einstein pulled kind of a fast one on everybody, and now they've misinterpreted that one badly.
Okay.
It was painful for me to go through the research and find out that he was part of the problem that caused science and physics to jump course, change direction away from a classical field theory into quantum theory. And he tried to fix it, but the improper interpretation of special relativity really pretty much killed the ether theory, which I had to restore and prove was the correct theory in the first place, and it should have never been abandoned.
Okay, so let's talk about your theory then. So how, because that's what your book is about, and that's what that's your life's work. So explain to me what that is, and I want to learn.
Sure. Well, the main problem I solved was the unified field theory, which basically is this: electromagnetism and gravity emerge as aspects of a single fundamental field. So it's a classical field theory. So what I mean by the fundamental field is that's the ether. That was the thing that they thought was the fundamental field. So the forces of nature come about as results of this field being deformed, bent in certain ways. So I deconstructed electromagnetism back into the electrostatic field charge, the Coulomb force, and the magnetic field. And then I looked at these two forces, and I saw there was a relationship, just as Michael Faraday discovered, along with James Clerk Maxwell. So 2/3 of this unification of force were already done by Maxwell and electromagnetism. So what I discovered by reading and studying carefully is that we start out with a primary field, a force field, the electrostatic field, the Coulomb force. All particles in this world, every last one of them have charge, are made of charge. Now, physicists might want to argue and say the photons don't have charge, but there they have a model problem again, and they're really wrong about that. The photon is nothing but charge. It's just equal parts of positive and negative charge, which they execute the math and say, well, +1 - 1 = 0. So they misrepresent the photon as saying that there's no charge in it. Nothing could be further from the truth. And my message to them is stop doing the math. The photon doesn't do it. Neither should we. The photon's charge is +1 and -1. So basically, going back to what I was saying, all particles are charged. And therefore, in order to get the magnetic field, what Faraday noticed with all his experiments is that whenever a charge moved, it created the magnetic field. So now we're 2/3 of the way to the unified field theory. We have the cause of the magnetic field. The electrostatic charge is a structure that's in space. It's a vortex. It's a twist of space, just as they thought back then. And they mistakenly abandoned that model as well. So this vortex structure, this twist of space starts with a little spiral and gets bigger and bigger and bigger from the front of the particle to the back of the particle. This structure causes a pressure wave because you're stretching space. Because if you look at a vortex, it's going around, space is kind of rotating. So as the particle moves through space, the electrostatic charge moves through space because it has a pressure wave in it. And that is the cause of the motion, which was hunted by Einstein and Einstein alone. Everybody else was frightened to do this.
Okay.
Because the charge moves through space, and all particles have perpetual motion, so something's causing that motion, right? So I'm describing what's causing it. So now the electrostatic charge, which is a vortex shape, moving through space, as it moves, it spins, and so the field around the ether field is forced to rotate in response to the moving charge as it goes through it. That's the magnetic field, that rotation of space. And you can see when they do demonstrations on the internet showing the drawing of a magnet, you got the lines of force going in one and coming back in the other. It's clearly showing that there's a rotation going on.
Okay.
So then all that was left to do was to unite gravity to this phenomena. So I knew, okay, I got a pattern emerging here. I got magnetism by causing charge to move. When charge moves, every time it moves, a magnetic field occurs. So therefore, I'm thinking, all right, this is simple. Somehow electromagnetic fields in motion somehow cause gravity. So now we're at the point where Einstein's looking around. He knows there's convolutions of space. Einstein argued that if one believed wholeheartedly in the basic idea of a field theory, matter should enter not as an interloper, but as an honest part of the field itself. So what I'm saying is that the charges, these twists of space are consubstantial with the space. They are made of the same thing and they exist within it. They are configurations of it, and these configurations move through and within the space. So that the space itself is not moving, but the configuration, the particle, the charge is. And when it does that, it creates a force field around it, the magnetic field. So all that was left to do was figure out how to make charges create a gravitational field, which is a different kind of deformation. It's a contraction of space. So somehow moving charges have to create a contraction of space. And it took many years to find it, a lot of thinking. But I found it in a book by Amir D. Excel, God's Equation. And he talks about, you're going to love this, Einstein's happiest thought. And where he thought about how, well, he discovered something from Paul Ehrenfest, who discovered it from Max Born, which was called the Ehrenfest paradox. So I'll describe to you. And Einstein, once he sees this, he says, this is it. This is what I need. I found the pathway to create gravity and mass, a contraction of space, which I was searching all over for Einstein to say the words contraction and gravity in the same sentence or paragraph. So in this excerpt, this is what is said. This is Einstein's happiest thought. Einstein followed the line of reasoning that began with the happiest thought of his life. Still at the Swiss Patent Office, he conducted one of the famous thought experiments. Einstein imagined a circle spinning in space. The center of the circle did not move, but its circumference was moving quickly in a circular direction. Einstein compared what happened in several reference frames, a standard tool that he used in developing the special relativity theory. Underline this in your mind now. He concluded, using his special relativity, that the boundary of the disk contracted as it spun. This is the Lorentz contraction formula, the transformation from special relativity that Lorentz and Fitzgerald came up with, and Einstein puts into special relativity. This was the way to get space to contract. He concluded, using his special relativity, that the boundary of the disk contracted as it spun. There was a force acting on the circle at the boundary, the centrifugal force, and its action was analogous to that of a gravitational force, but the same contraction that affected the outer circle left the diameter unchanged. Thus, Einstein concluded in a way that surprised even him, the ratio of the circle to the diameter was no longer pi. It caused space to bend, and in a very special way, a contracted way. So now I have the final ingredient. And he spent the rest of his life trying to come up with a formula, and he even describes it as being a rank 2 tensor. And I found it, and it comes from Newton.
Okay.
It was already out there. And all I had to do is, I got some special training from a physicist because I knew the formula I wanted. I wanted to understand how it was derived. So once I did that, I came up with a small system of equations that I could use, and I solved for the mass of the neutron and the proton. And it's very easy to do. And all it takes is the accelerated motion of unbalanced charges. Whenever you have that circumstance, space contracts around these, and this type of motion is accelerated motion. I'm not talking about just going straight ahead and going faster and faster. This type, when you're in a circular or elliptical motion, is accelerated motion, and that was the key, because particles do that.
Okay.
Particles do that, and Einstein didn't know about the quarks, so he couldn't come up with the model. But I found that this is what's going on inside of the neutron and the proton. The quarks are traveling, and they form this structure called a trefoil knot.
I'm gonna make the screen bigger for you. 1 sec. Just keep talking.
Yeah, this is the trefoil knot, the simplest knot there is, and this provides not only the gravitational force is emitted from this, because this not only is doing this at 99, the quarks are moving at 99% the speed of light at this very short distance. So they're causing a contraction around them at the perimeter as they move at this speed. But this thing is spinning, or is rolling and spinning. So what you get basically is a rapidly rotating precessing sphere. And that's exactly what you need, thanks to the Ehrenfest paradox. That was the key ingredient to coming up with that idea. Once you get that, you're going to get a gravitational field at the perimeter of every neutron and every proton and every electron that moves in an orbital. They're all doing the same thing. And this is how all the particles get their mass. And this is where gravity comes from. These slight contractions of space, which you'll notice this thing has no poles. Gravitational field has no poles. This is perfect. This is the only reasonable solution to the problem. And it was there waiting in the dust in the libraries, just waiting to be rediscovered again. And that's the unified field theory, as quickly as I could say it. Basically, gravity is caused by the accelerated motion of fundamental unbalanced charges. When charges move in this way, they cause the space in and around the particle to contract. Gravity is a contraction of the spatial medium, the ether.
So you mentioned special relativity, but like yours is your book is super. So how do we go from special to super?
Well, we, like Einstein, special relativity, general relativity kind of uses special relativity in this thing that I just talked to you about, the Ehrenfest paradox, to extend or explain or find a method for gravity, the creation, the mechanical method for creation of the gravitational field. So super relativity is the solution, the explanation for something that Einstein said in general relativity, which somehow acceleration and gravity are the same thing. But they didn't have any mechanical model. There was no explanation how that could work. What I just provided to you was that explanation. Now there is a physical, mechanical, meaningful explanation for how this all works. Okay. So that is the super relativity. And then coming out of that, other things sprouted. After I worked out this problem with mass, which basically, before all that I said, all that I read to you, I had a happiest thought of my own, which got me to study and look for these clues, which basically I'm sitting at work and I'm at my office and I'm looking at this fundamental particles interactions chart that's on my wall that I like to look at. This is why all these particles have mass but the photon. And I says, the photon must be doing something different. What is it doing different than all these other particles? I says, well, all these other particles are unbalanced charges. They're either positive or they're negative. And all of those have mass. And then I said, well, the photon has a balanced charge. And it also travels in a straight line and it never accelerates. And then the happy thought, oh God, that's it. The photon doesn't accelerate, and it doesn't accelerate because it has a balanced charge, which makes it move in a straight line at the maximum constant rate of speed. Therefore, it generates no mass. All the other particles have mass because they have angular momentum, and this is going to be the cause of their mass. It's going to cause a slight curvature and bending and contraction of space when they move in that manner. It was so simple, it was like, almost laughable.
So, all right. So I'm listening here. I'm trying to understand you. You're bringing in gravity. So then we got into anti-gravity, which is what is that? And according to you, like your interpretation of that, and how does everything you've just explained fit into that, or is it the opposite, as the word implies?
Well, when I worked on, and when I discovered that gravity is just a contraction of space, and then the solution for, well, what is anti-gravity? If this is a contraction of space and this causes gravity, then this must cause anti-gravity. So somehow the motion of particles again, in some manner or form, must be possible to create an expansion of space. And then I looked at what I had left to work with, and that was basically the electrostatic field and magnetism. So when realizing that magnetism is a rotation of space, and also knowing, I'm making a connection now to what I read when I was a teenager, that the U.S. Air Force was sending out, during Project Blue Book, a lot of times they would send an investigator out with a magnometer, a device that measures magnetic fields. So in my head, I'm saying, wow, well, there's a clue. It seems that the aliens, that when they use anti-gravity, the ships are emitting a very powerful magnetic field. So for many years, I said, I don't know how, but somehow a magnetic field must be able to be used to create an anti-gravity field. And then through the years, when I realized that it's a rotation of space, I realized that causes a stretching of space, causes it to get thinner. And so that would mean that the permittivity and permeability would be reduced, which is very important. Because if you reduce permittivity and permeability, not only can you experience less gravity, but you experience less inertia, and you can break the light speed barrier, which is absolutely, it's not good enough just to make an anti-gravity field. You have to be able to use that anti-gravity field for propulsion, and that propulsion has to be able to be much faster than the speed of light, or we'll never get to other star systems. If it's just the speed of light, it's still too slow. Okay. So I realized using a magnetic field, if you make it powerful enough, you cause that space to thin out, stretch due to this rotation coming from the magnetic field. And that's exactly what you need to create what I call the slip wave, which is the mechanism used by particles. I look to nature to see how they work, how they move, how they all move. Which is a complete mystery. Physics works on something called kinematics, which means they study the motion of particles, but they don't know the cause, and they don't want to touch it. You ask them the cause, they start to, oh, well, that's at the fundamental reality. We don't really even talk about that. The only person I know that was actually looking to solve that problem, the kinematics problem, instead of just, oh, we're just going to use the numbers. We know what they are. They're moving at this speed, and we don't care how they're moved. Well, Einstein knew better. And in his unified field theory in I think it was 25, he says the very last two sentences when he's trying to solve the unified theory problem in his paper, nevertheless, I'm still far away from claiming the physical validity of the equations I derived. The reason for that is that I did not succeed in deriving equations of the motions for particles yet. He knew it was important. Nobody else even wants to touch it. Still today, they don't. So the slip wave, the cause of motion of particles, turns out to be the way that we're going to build spacecraft that can go at interstellar speeds. I mean, we can go not just 10 times faster than light or 100. We need to go tens of thousands of times faster than the speed of light so that we can get it to another star system like they did in Star Trek, a few hours, a few days, even minutes in some cases. If we go at the speed of light, it takes 4.2 years to get to Proxima Centauri. One way, that's way too long. I mean, if you go much farther than that, that's a long time just to be sitting in space twiddling your thumbs waiting to get somewhere. You got to go.
So you mentioned, I completely understand the process and the need to do that. And you've mentioned alien tech. So I want to segue into that. Do you, as much as you know about Einstein, was Einstein involved in any, to your knowledge, any of this UFO Project Blue Book, any of that kind of stuff behind the lines? Philadelphia experiment comes to mind, but
no, he was long gone before all of that. The only thing that I believe that he was involved in was the Philadelphia experiment.
Do you know much about that?
The beginning of the Stargate technology.
Okay, so good. Let's talk about that. So, what do you remember about the Philadelphia project or experiment?
Well, it basically they wanted to make ships radar invisible. And they thought, well, if we can bend the light, which, if a magnetic field is strong enough, it theoretically should be able to do that. You wanted to change the angle so they could bounce radar off our ship and then back to their ship. You could cause the light to just basically deflect in odd directions and it never would return. That was the goal. And they used the magnetic resonant fields. And so they did that experiment, and it not only made it radar invisible, it also made it visually invisible, which was kind of a shock and a surprise. And apparently, according to the testimony of the people who were on board, the ones that survived, they went interdimensional for a few minutes and did a small bit of time travel, went back in time, I think like 10 minutes. All this from using a magnetic resonant field, a very powerful one. And the Navy, and then of course the Air Force got involved later on with the Montauk Project, and they continued studying this phenomena to see if they could use it in some way or form. But eventually, I believe they abandoned the magnetic resonant field technology for a more advanced technology that uses accelerated light passing through a certain device called it's a material. It's called a left-handed material, and there's another name for it, metamaterial.
Okay.
And a metamaterial, because they can use it in something called a fractal lens. And in theory, according to the people on ResearchGate, the material scientists are claiming that when you shine light into this material, it goes infinitely fast, which makes sense if what they're doing is true, which they reduce the permittivity and permeability within this material to zero. And if you do that, then that's how fast the light's going to go inside of that material. So with that in mind, you can build a Stargate frame where you shoot light particles of a certain frequency in there. And when they come out, they're screaming at some ungodly speed, which then causes them to be highly compressed. So you have these ultra high frequencies. And so that's making the space vibrate at incredibly high. It's tuning it to like another dimension, much higher frequency. And perhaps using that in conjunction with high frequency sound or something of that nature. Between the two, you got this, just like on the show, probably, you know, some sort of a special weird effect occurs where you could see through into another place and or another time. So I believe that's the technology they're using now. But that chapter is my most speculative chapter in the book. I'm just trying to imagine how a Stargate could be built. And so I studied the Montauk Project, and
we have evidence of all these theories. We have the science and the math that shows it's possible, and the government experimenting with it. Do you think that they know the answers and they're just not telling us? Do you think they've solved it on a military level versus us trying to figure it out like on the civilian side?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they have. Of course, they're not going to. This is all types of technologies that give them a strategic military advantage. So they're not going to talk about it. And in the course of doing all this work, they're going to, be bumping into aliens, ETs, all that stuff. And I don't know when they're going to ever disclose all this stuff, but there are insiders that have seen things. I know somebody. I know that we have the UFO technology because of somebody that contacted me that saw a UFO close up. They've never gone public. The two people that saw this thing back in the 70s, and they're frightened naturally because bad things happen to people who talk about the Air Force having UFO technology. But these people said that they were able to walk right up to it and look at the markings on it. And it said U.S. Air Force experimental on the UFO that they saw. And then they stepped back and it did a lot of vibrating and making certain strange rolling type noises. And then it took off. So do we have UFO technology? As far as I'm concerned, yeah, we have it. I think some of what we're seeing nowadays is our stuff and not ET technology, but I think there's plenty of both going on out there right now. And Stargate tech, it's rumored that we have it, but do I have any firsthand experience? No, of course not.
So how do you imagine they would use it? Like, I mean, the technology exists, the government has it. It's not sharing it with us, but they're using it. Or are they just not using it and just not telling us so we don't use it? Like what's going? What do you speculate is really happening here?
There's really two ways to use it. I mean, you can use it to travel great distances in a very short amount of time, but you can also use it, unfortunately, for time travel. I'm not happy about that.
Now, can you travel?
Time travel not to be possible, but unfortunately, with this technology, since and the only way time travel can work is if the whole universe and beyond the superverse, all time is happening at once. So if you go outside of our limited material dimension, time is going on all at the same time. There is just the moment, and it's accessible if you could use this technology to go back in time. And I suspect strongly they're using it mostly to go back in time and try to change things, which would explain the Mandela effect somewhat. If they're dealing with things and changing things, if they change it too much, it'll pollute the timeline, then we'll really have a problem.
One thing that has always wrapped my head, I couldn't wrap my head around with terms of time travel, is And I mean, I'm nowhere close to the spectrum that you're on. Like this is, I'm not a scientist. I'm an investigator. I refer to people like you to tell me what these things are. But I mean, but with time travel, when I try to comprehend it, my understanding of it, as an analogy, I would look at a video, this recording as an example. So we are live right now. People are watching this in this instant, but it's being recorded. So that way people can go back and watch it on a replay. So they're technically going back in time, in present time, to see something that has already happened. So that part makes sense to me. So if someone were to travel back in time, does that mean it's recorded somewhere or stored in some sort of space in which we're able to see it? Like, how does that work? Because I just feel like I can imagine us moving faster to slow time down forward. I just can't comprehend moving back.
Well, there's a couple of misconceptions. Yes, if you move faster and faster, according to the Lorentz transformations, time will slow down and come to a stop. But time really doesn't, because it doesn't really exist. Time doesn't really slow down and stop. What does is the clocks that are measuring it. And they're using that to say that, oh, well, it's time that's slowing down. No, because if you did the twin paradox experiment and you did a little slightly different version of it, if you had the people here stationary on Earth and the rocket going out at the speed of light and the rocket coming back at the speed of light, the clock would be stopped the whole time. Let's say it traveled for an hour at the speed of light and it traveled for an hour back. It would be stopped those 2 hours. So the clock difference when it got back would be 2 hours off. The clock will have not moved, and they will be like they're in the past, but they're not, because when they get back, they're in the same exact moment as the people here on Earth and the other people who are watching the whole thing in another stationary position. So, and this person is watching the other guy go back and forth, and he sees he never leaves our present time. The ship is going fast, speed of light, and then it's coming back, and the clocks are different. But when we all get back and compare our clocks, my clock and the Earth clock match, the other guy's doesn't, but we're all still in the same present moment. That guy never went back in time. He never stayed back in time. It's just his clock stopped. And there's molecular atomic reasons why the clock stops and how we misinterpreted this to mean that time is stopping or slowing down.
Would the time traveler age as far as our understanding of age?
No, see, the traveler will not age for the same reason the clock stopped, because all the molecules, all the atoms, and all the electrons are all getting flattened as you're going toward the speed of light and unable to vibrate and move normally as they do, which stops, their mass is increasing. Everything is happening as you accelerate toward the speed of light, that if you're not in the slip wave, slip wave is an entirely different story. But all of those Lorentz transformations, which I studied a long time, I ran those math formulas and watched the numbers change and saw you get a contraction of light, you get an increase in mass, time slows down, the clock slows down. But all these things are all happening because the molecules and the atoms, they can't move in a full 3D dimension and oscillate, which would cause your body, your molecules in your body to age 2 hours because of their motion, their metabolic rate. All that gets crushed and stopped because you're moving in this forward direction, and it's basically bringing everything else molecularly, atomically to a halt, because it's all consumed and going in this direction, the maximum velocity. So that's why all that happens. But scientists will argue, oh no, if you're in that ship, you won't notice anything. You're wrong. That, my friend scientists, you're wrong about that. You will notice a lot of things. The only way to escape that is to be inside of the slip wave field. When you do that, inertia is canceled, contraction of length is canceled, time dilation is canceled, actually your time goes just a little bit faster, even at 50,000 times the speed of light, which I explain in detail in the book. But it's a tricky business working with space, because it's all about what you do, how you